live.
Hey everybody, Tyler Florence here. Welcome to Wolf It Down, your weekly sesh in the kitchen that covers all things food. And as always, I'm here with my lovely co-hosts, Amanda Gold, my producer.
Hey everybody.
And Matt Macera, our corporate chef.
Hello.
And we're excited to be with you in the kitchen. We've got a fun show set up for you today with a very special guest, a really dear friend of mine, Adam Duritz, who is the lead singer of the amazing band Counting Crows, who's been a friend of mine for a very, very long time. He's going to be jumping on the podcast a little bit later. But before we jump into it, that conversation, which I can't wait to catch up with him, because, I don't know if you follow him on Instagram at all, but my man is turning into a cooking celebrity.
He's quite the cook.
He's quite the cook, and he always has been. But, the funny thing about COVID, and we're starting to see this with a lot of celebrities, they're actually starting to flex their muscle in the kitchen and showing the world what they can really do. And Adam Duritz can roll with the recipes. He's so much fun to listen to. So he's going to be hopping on the podcast a little bit later to catch us up on everything food and what's going on in his world right now. And but I want to catch up with you guys first. I mean, we
haven't seen each other for a while.
Yeah, we took a week off because it was spring break, and we probably needed a week. And the kids were restless and they wanted to get out of the house.
Yep.
So you went down to Southern California for a bit, right?
I did the SoCal tour. San Diego, LA, Santa Barbara.
And you had a good time?
I love Santa Barbara.
I
had been before, but I don't know that I had really done it in a real way. It's just like it has everything.
Yeah.
It has great food, great weather, great beaches. We rented e-bikes, went on like a 17-mile bike ride one day, and which was so much fun, and just beautiful beaches, and we had some good meals.
But yeah, I really love Santa Barbara. I think the architecture is fantastic, and the food scene's really great. There's lots of really amazing restaurants are starting to pop up. We shot there for the Great Food Circus.
I ate where you shot because I remember you talking about it, Bettina. Remember that pizza place in the Montecito Country Mart?
So good.
It was so good.
Yeah. That place was really, really delicious. Yeah. Like they put so much work into, the recipe with the crust, and the vibe of the restaurant's really great. The place is pretty. Yeah. And the Montecito Mart is kind of a fun place to go hang out too. A lot of good shopping.
It's great.
Yeah, it's cool.
It was fun.
How was your spring break, man? What'd you do?
A lot of gardening.
Yeah.
Everything's kind of popping off. We just redid our front yard. But I guess if I had to give a big shout out, mine would be, I've been really crushing on this podcast lately called Your Own Backyard. It's about the disappearance of Kristen Smart. They recently just arrested Paul Flores on the murder of Kristen Smart. It's like she disappeared in 1996. And this podcast has gotten so many followers and people chiming into it, and it is...
Everybody loves a murder mystery.
Well, we were talking about spring break, and you're talking about like murder mystery podcast. Just jump into it.
Welcome to my brain. But this podcast has helped lead the kind of reopen new things in the cases and help lead to the arrest of Paul Flores, and it's
amazing.
Kind of really cool.
I take that from the top
happen.
in case somebody doesn't know what you're talking about at all. There's a podcast, like a true crime podcast you're into, and what is it called again?
It's called Your Own Backyard.
Your Own Backyard. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you sort of segued from I'm redoing my front yard to I'm listening to a podcast called My Own Backyard. I was
what are you burying in your backyard?
Trying to figure out how to dive into that, because I was like, well, it kind of takes place in it takes place down in Cal Poly area, which is near Santa Barbara. And I was
okay. It all connects.
It all connects.
Yeah,
that's good.
But it's just been really, really interesting seeing all the kind of development and stuff. And now that they just made the arrest a week ago, they're going through the arraignments and stuff, and they haven't disclosed what new evidence they have yet, and it's very exciting.
I got to get into that.
Yeah, it's really good.
We rented a house in Stinson Beach, which, if you know the San Francisco Bay Area, it's in Marin County, just on the other side of Mount Tam, and it's like this 3.5 mile crescent-shaped beach that I think is just absolute paradise. And my wife and I found it maybe 10 years ago, and obviously, it's been around with homes for a long time, and they've got really groovy, 1970s, 1960s California architecture. Some of the houses are just amazing, but we just kind of house hop out there all the time, and that's our go-to.
Yeah, that's your place.
Yeah, it's our jam. It's our go-to.
I feel like that's
rental.
where your shoulders drop.
Yeah, for sure, for sure, and because it's so easy, right? I remember one trip to Hawaii with my wife and I when our 13-year-old son Hayden and our 12-year-old daughter were babies. So they were maybe 2 or 3 years old. We took them to Hawaii on this kind of big crazy trip, right? Because like that's what all the other parents were doing, and a few other parent groups said, "Hey, we're going to Hawaii. Come with. It'll be fun. It'll be great. Let's go." And then on the way back, I remember just being absolutely exhausted with all the gear that comes along with like traveling with small little children. And then I had one child sitting with me, and then Tolan had one other child sitting with her, and then we both hopped off of the plane covered in vomit, right? And and
you're like, never again.
Never again.
Yeah,
never
vacation
again.
from vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's be clear. Like, there's a vacation and there's a trip.
Yeah.
And like when you're traveling with small children, it's a trip. It's not a vacation.
I think that's the difference between the two, and that's the reason that we love Stinson Beach so much, because it's just so close, right?
Yeah.
So it's just on the other side of Mount Tam, and they have so many great houses to rent, and we rent a house for like maybe it's like $5,000 to $7,000 for the week, and we can't get on an airplane for $5,000 to $7,000 to go anywhere, right? And we usually split that with another family. So the houses sleep like 10 people or 12 people. So we go out there and we have so much fun. It's such a good time. So we were out there, and then then you're out in the heaven of Marin County food culture, right? And there's great butcher shops and great cheese shops and great farms.
Good pesto.
Really, really good pesto. It's
Parkside.
at Parkside. I love that place too. So we had so much fun. Really, really great spring break, and I hope you guys had a nice little break traveling around with your family too. And again, I hope you guys are all safe at home as we're starting to get out of this kind of COVID thing. It feels like it's going to be a fun summer on some level. It feels like people are starting to kind of get back into it. Wayfair Tavern is opened. Our not our private event space upstairs, but our main 2 floors of the tavern itself, plus our outdoor parklet, and we're doing 150, 160 covers a night now. So we're kind of getting back up to.
I sat at the bar at the Buckeye the other night, and the bartender was like, "Are you cool sitting here?" And I was like, "Are you cool with us sitting here?"
Yeah.
And we had a drink at the bar inside. It felt like a really big deal.
It felt like a really big deal.
It felt weird, but we were like, okay, we're doing this.
Yeah, we're doing it.
Yeah.
Hold my beer, we're doing it. Yeah, it was so much fun to kind of take a nice little break and nice little week off. But it's good to be back in the studio. We've got kind of a fun announcement, because actually starting next week we're changing the format of this particular podcast, because we were doing a lot of research, and so this is our 10th episode. And in 10 episodes, you get a chance to collect a lot of data and what people are interested in. You also start taking a lot of requests, and people really want to see us cook in the kitchen on a weekly basis. So we're taking our Wolf It Down videos that we normally crank out and produce once a week, plus this podcast, and we're kind of smashing it up into kind of a really fun hybrid thing. So starting next week, next Wednesday, we're going to be launching this live on Facebook, but we're going to be recording the whole thing at the same time, and then putting it back up again where you find all of your favorite podcasts. So you can watch this on Instagram TV, you can watch this on YouTube, but it's going to be live on Facebook starting next week at 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to have so much fun. We got 12 new cooking classes coming up with 12 amazing menus. So I hope you guys join us for that. And it's just going to be sort of a fun new hybrid. So we're going to be doing the podcast.
It's kind of like a weekly show.
Yeah.
That's also a cooking class.
Exactly. So we're going to smash everything together and doing all kinds of fun stuff. So we've got a whole new season of great cooking classes coming up, and we're going to smash that into the podcast and make one big super show out of it. And I think it's going to be kind of cool. Ladies and gentlemen, my dear friend Adam Duritz, who is the lead singer of the most amazing band in the world, one of my favorites, really the soundtrack of my life, the Counting Crows. He's also a really great home chef and a winemaker. He's such a fascinating guy, and I'm really excited to have him on the podcast now. Can we pop him in? There, Adam Duritz. What's happening, brother?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. So you're coming at us from your pad in New York City. I love that apartment.
New York City, absolutely.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. Listen, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast. It's great to see you.
I'm happy to. It's really good to see you too.
Yeah. You're looking great. Tolan says hi.
I'll tell her I said hi.
I will. And as soon as I was walking the door, Tolan, who's my wife, she said, I got a couple of questions for Adam, because we're all big fans of not only your music, because you and I have been friends for a very, very long time, but also your new Instagram live on IGTV, your new cooking classes. And that was the reason I wanted to get you on the podcast, because it seems like you're shifting gears in a really kind of fun way. And you're doing these like amazing kind of cooking recipes live from your kitchen. And they're really, really good. And they're really fun too, man.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I've been cooking for a long time. I mean, that's kind of how we became friends, because I'm sort of obsessed with food and chefs and cooks. And we met in Sundance all those years ago.
Can I tell you where we met? And you may not even remember this or not, but you and I met doing the Wayne Brady show back in, must have been like the early 2000s, right? So I was the chef guest, and the Counting Crows were the musical artists, and you and I were hanging out backstage with a whole band. And you and I were just talking about food the whole time. We reconnected at Sundance, a couple of years later, but that's where we met the first time.
Wow, I'd forgotten about that. I remember that now. That was fun, that Wayne Brady show. Wow, that was a long time.
That was a long time ago, wasn't it?
7 maybe.
Yeah, it was the early 2000s. I can't remember exactly what it was, right? Because it was when I was starting to blow up on Food Network, or they wouldn't have had me on. so it must have been like 2003, 2004, something like that, man. But it was cool, man. It was good.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
Long time ago.
Too, but wait, where are you now? Where are you?
We're in our studio in Marin County, and you are from the San Francisco Bay Area. You grew up in Berkeley. That's where the Counting Crows got their start from. And so, yes, we're in downtown Mill Valley, kind of where my old house used to be. This is our studio. And I used to live right around the corner from here. And I used to love it because when you guys were touring really, really heavy, you would always kind of come by our house. We'd have dinner. Occasionally, we'd have a little, too much wine. You'd crash and spend the night, which is always fun.
Yeah, I saved those bottles all because you were making your first vintage of Zinfandel. I don't know, a long, long time ago. And because last time I saw you, I surprised you with those bottles I'd saved. You gave me a couple bottles from like they said 02 and 03 on them. They were the first two, the second and the third bottles you'd ever made. They weren't even labeled yet, but I kept them all these years. And then last time I saw you, which is a couple years ago now, I guess, I pulled that bottle out of the cellar for you.
It was 2019, and it must have been just the first part of the year because we were in New York City shooting with Food Network, and then I always try to hook up with you when we're in town, and we got a chance to have dinner. Rocco DeSpirito had taken over the Standard Hotel in the Meatpacking District, and we just kind of piled in, and you brought 2 bottles of Zinfandel, and this is going back. I mean, it was a minute because like I've been making wine kind of as an enthusiast. We kind of jump into the business of it from time to time, but I've definitely kind of made wine for maybe like 12 years now. And that was my very first vintage of Zinfandel. And I got a 92 in Wine Spectator for that year. It was really, really great. And you were over at the house, and I think I gave you like a half case of it and sent it home with you, maybe a case of it. I think we drank a case, and I think you took home a case. And then we had dinner, and then you brought 2 bottles back. So you've been storing that stuff for quite some time, man.
Yeah, I'd had that on the top shelf of my cellar in the don't touch it shelf. I was giving it away on the top of the cellar in the don't touch this area. There's a bottle of Petrus that I found that I don't even know where I got it from. Like a bottle of like 80s Petrus. And those 2 were up there as well.
Wow. Well, that's a good shelf. And we've got the same shelf in our wine storage area. And I always crack into it. Like, occasionally we'll have some people over, and it's never the first bottle of wine. It's usually like the 3rd or 4th bottle of wine when you have friends over for dinner and you start cracking out the good stuff. Like you got something to prove. You
get loosened up enough to make bad decisions. And also not be able to appreciate it by then.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But it's just always kind of fun, man. And so anyway, I was walking out of the house today, and Tolan had 2 questions about your new cooking series on Instagram. First of all, when did you decide that you want to get into this? Was it the pandemic that said, okay, let's just, let's pivot and do something fun?
Well, like a month or 2 into the pandemic, we working on a record, and we had to take a break because the quarantines hit, so we had to stop. And I was sort of, it had become clear to me how long this was going to go on for. And I said to Zoe, I was like, I don't want to wake up a year from now having like accomplished nothing. You know, I want to do some things. I'm going to learn some stuff. I'm going to start cooking all the time. I want to really I'm going to learn to cook all kinds of shit. I'm just going to do as much as I'm just going to learn stuff.
Yeah.
And so I started like cooking like crazy during the pandemic. At first I wanted to make a Chinese meal for friends. So I learned like 2 or 3 Chinese dishes. And I just started, you know, looking at it all the time because I had been doing a podcast before and everything kind of got interrupted. So I put all that research time and everything into like reading recipes and like looking for things to cook. And, you know, I'd find something I wanted to do and I'd read 3 or 4 different recipes and I'd, you know, kind of try and write my own. And I just started doing it. And after I'd been doing it for a few months, my friends were all like, Jesus, this is, you should really do something with this.
You should really do something with it. Yeah.
Do a cooking show and a friend. And I thought, well, I don't know about that, but maybe I'll just start doing these things on Instagram.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of fun. You know, I prefer to do it under my own control rather than have to deal with, as much as I love cooking, I don't really like TV very much. So,
but the videos that you shoot, and do you shoot and edit those yourself? I mean, it's like, so with like the Batman spins and like all the, like the words that pop up, do you handle all that or what?
Yeah, I've been doing all of it. My girlfriend says I could get someone to do it, but I'm kind of enjoying doing it. Maybe when I get more busy, I'll have someone do that stuff. But
dude, I wouldn't change anything. I think that's great because sometimes you make it too complicated. You know what I mean? It feels like it's too much. But right now, they're like this. This is you, and you're having a good time, and you're looking in the camera, and you're just kind of talking about some ingredients. And you're telling fun stories, and then I think the cutaways are really great. When I remember one you said, you know, I've gotten some requests to do more simple recipes. So today I'm going to show you how to make toast. And like, so you do a whole like cooking class on how to make it like a perfect piece of toast in the toaster. I just think it's funny, bro. It's so funny, man.
That's the first one I'd done that was completely ridiculous. Just for the sake of doing it. You know, there's a thematic reason for that one that I can't get into right now, but that was the first one I'd done that was totally ridiculous. You know, it took me a while. At first I was just putting them together, and then I figured out how to do the transitions. I found an app for that. And then just last week, I got an app for putting captions over things.
Yeah.
So I could go toast.
It was just so good. There's so much fun, and this is just the side of you that I've known for a really long time, just because you're such a foodie, and you and I've had, you know, so many chances to have amazing dinners. Like, you know, we've hung out in New York City, you've hung out in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Sundance Film Festival, and you are a foodie, you know, like through and through. Like, where's like some of your favorite places in America that if when you guys go back on tour that you can't wait to jump back into?
Well, home is a big one. Berkeley, you know, where I grew up, because, you know, growing up in Berkeley, you know, being around the Bay Area in the 80s and 70s, you know, the influence of Alice Waters and the Chez Panisse crowd and how that blossomed out into, you know, her idea of fresh food blossomed into a million, like, suddenly you had butchers and fishmongers and fresh markets. You had people making pastries who would, you know, used to work at Chez Panisse and now they had their own pastry shop. You know, that stuff, it just started when I was really young, getting into the interesting part of it. And then my friend Joey and I, my parents were gone a lot then. My mother was off at medical school. My dad was visiting her. And we kind of had the run of the house a lot of the time. And we, rather than just throwing parties, we would throw these big dinners and we would just raid my dad's wine cellar and, you know, would cook stuff, and we would just get wasted and cook like 5-course meals or learn to cook a duck. And but it all started one day with we had heard about sushi. We wanted to try sushi, but we'd never had it. This is like 84, 85, so there weren't really sushi restaurants yet. But we rented Kagemusha, the Shadow Warrior by Kurosawa, and we went down into downtown Oakland to like a Chinese fishmonger down in a basement, unmarked doorway with these big tanks. We bought like octopus, tuna, salmon, a bunch of different fish, and we had a book on sushi. And so we just learned to taught ourselves to make sushi, got really high, and watched our first Japanese film. and we were kind of obsessed with cooking ever since then. The restaurants I really want to go to. I mean, I have to in Berkeley. Zachary's.
Yeah.
Zachary's.
Yeah.
It's like there's nothing like it anywhere. The stuffed spinach and mushroom pizza. Everett and Jones barbecue. I keep their barbecue sauce here at my house. It's still my favorite sauce in America, ever. I keep cases of it around the house to make other things with.
And what about Chez Panisse? Did you miss that?
I do, but I mean, I used to go to the Chez Panisse Cafe was, big part because we wouldn't really get to go to the restaurant up top. The cafe was open. And that was actually the origin of one of the first things I really wanted to cook because they used to make a calzone there.
I know that, yeah.
So good. And it was one of my favorite foods in my life. One of the first things I learned to cook too. My first cookbook was the pasta, pizza, and calzone cookbook from Chez Panisse. So we made like that calzone, and it was never as good as theirs. And then they took it off the menu for some reason. And
haven't been back since.
No, I mean we make it every now and then. Mine's just not as good. It's made with like. Instead of ricotta, they used, goat cheese like chèvre and prosciutto, and it was really, really good. But that broke my heart when like your favorite food in the world comes off the menu at the restaurant, and there's only one place that ever made it. So Chez Panisse, as much as I worship Alice Waters, I have every book. I love her dearly, but I don't go to the restaurant much because it just makes me sad.
I'm going to tell her. I'm going to send her a note right now and say, you got to put the calzone back on because when Adam's back on tour, you know what I mean? We got to get the band back together.
Go there every time. There used to be a restaurant right next to it called Cha Am, which was my favorite Thai restaurant. That closed down just a few years ago, which also broke my heart. But Chez Panisse still being there without the calzone on the cafe menu just kills me.
You want something really funny? Well, first of all, I want to let you know that my co-host and I didn't get a chance.
Alone.
We
we're not alone in the kitchen.
We haven't said anything, so I'm like, I don't want to be this like voice that just comes in out of nowhere.
So Adam, please meet Amanda Gold and Matt Massera.
Hi, Adam.
Adam, nice to meet you. Go Bears.
My dear friend, Adam Duritz, right? So a real funny story. So, and we were just talking about this last night as far as taking things off the menu that are a hit. We have deviled eggs on our menu at Wafer Tavern in San Francisco, and they are, without a question, in our top 5 sales in our product mix, and they have been forever. And we had one executive chef, and I'm not going to name his name, but one particular executive chef who felt like he just didn't want to do deviled eggs, right? He wanted to do something he wanted to do like truffled egg salad with like toasted brioche and make it something kind of like way more than what it was. And the funny thing about it is I took the bait because he laid out a really good argument for labor. He was like, dude, it takes you 3 guys to shell eggs all day long to make 150 orders of deviled eggs and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, we can make egg salad for, nothing and we'll save a lot of labor. And I'm like, all right, let's just throw it on the menu, see what's up. And then we took the deviled eggs off the menu. We put this like fancy schmancy truffled egg salad with toasted brioche as a thing. And then Willie Brown, the former mayor of San Francisco, wrote an op-ed in the San Francisco Chronicle calling us out on our menu for taking the deviled eggs off the menu. He said he'd never come back until we put them back on. And I put it back on the next day. I wrote the guy a really sincere apology email. But that's kind of death sometimes for a restaurant. It's like things that you really care about. And for some crazy reason, they just take like the hottest thing off the menu off.
Yeah, trademark dishes are like really for the customers and not for the restaurant. It's so annoying for the restaurant to have to make the same thing over and over when you're trying to change your menu. But like, it's really for your customers.
Yeah, it's special to them.
It's special to them, right? And so shut up and play the hits. That was my takeaway from that. Just shut up and play the hits. That's what they want.
There are certain things that like, food, like music, I suppose in some ways, it attaches to moments in your life, providing the sort of like savory soundtrack in a way, and they remind you of things about your childhood. Like deviled eggs are one of those things that like when you're a kid, it's like a fancy looking thing that you can learn to cook as a kid because it's pretty easy to make it basically. And so like I remember like I'm a cook now. I made deviled eggs and you never see them in restaurants. There's one place in New York here, Bar Centrale, which is a good place to go like after the theater sometimes. They have deviled eggs up there. And I've been up there a million times with people, a lot of actors, stage actors that I know after they've done shows, friends of mine who are in shows and they've done shows and we've been up there. And I ordered the deviled eggs because it reminds me of my childhood. And every time they come, somebody at the table is like, oh my God, I haven't had deviled eggs in so long. They put it in their mouth, and it's this memory of something that you don't get a lot as an adult. But deviled eggs are fantastic.
They're nostalgic.
nostalgia.
It's nostalgic.
Nostalgia.
And that it just tastes like an outdoor barbecue, outdoor picnic, outdoor. It's that. So and we kind of make them fancy, right? We'll always kind of do something fun with the filling, and put some sort of crispy, fun garnish on top of that. If it's a fried shrimp or crispy chicken skin, or right now the deviled eggs that are on the menu are sort of mock a wedge salad thing. So we actually make a green goddess yolk mixture with avocado and fresh herbs and tarragon into the egg yolk mixture, and then on top it's like a little garnish of chiffonade of romaine lettuce, and then a little bit of like crumbly blue cheese that you get from Marin County, and an oven dried tomato, and you pop that. It's nice, really nice, man. Delicious.
It's so true about like the moments that it places you back. I was talking to a friend last night, and I said that we were interviewing you on the podcast today. And I was like, wasn't Accidentally in Love your first dance at your wedding? And she was like, yeah, weirdo. Like, why do you know my first dance at my wedding?
Wow.
And I'm like, because every time it comes on, I think about your wedding, and I think about being on the dance floor. And it's like, it puts me right there. And so it's so true. It's like you have a bite of food, you hear a song, and you're right back there.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, right? And I sent you a text because you were just on Jimmy Kimmel not too long ago, right? When it was like the 1 year anniversary of COVID, and you played Long December, and it was just like this big, huge national exhale that we all kind of like can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it felt like, oh, of course it's been a long December. It's been a really, really long December, and one of my favorite songs of all time, and it was just your music always takes me back, and because I felt like lived all this stuff together, like August and everything after, and Recovering the Satellites, and like these just like paramount these moments of music that you kind of go back and listen to, and almost like a bite of deviled eggs, it just kind of takes you back to this place where you feel like that's what life is all about, and it feels good, it feels fun, man. I love your music as always, man. I love your music.
Food and music are like that. Immer, our guitar player, he and I, we used to go to that place, Cha-Am, all the time. It was right down the hill from the house I lived in Berkeley, where we rehearsed. So we would have dinner there after rehearsal, before rehearsal. It was like a big thing for us. And there was a way they made a few dishes. Their the green curry chicken, the Gankyao Wangai, and their the chicken with the cashews, Gai Pat Himalai, that are I've never found those anyplace else like that really tasted like that. I love Thai food, but those particular dishes, my memories are so tied to Cha-Am. And so one of the things that I started doing when I started doing all this cooking is I told myself I was going to learn some Thai recipes for those dishes, and I was going to figure out the way to make them taste like Cha-Am. And then I was going to have a dinner with Immer and freak him out. And so it took me a while because I had to do a lot of experimentation to figure it out. And then we had that dinner. I didn't really master the chicken with the cashews, but I did nail the green curry. And when he had it, he sat there at the table and he kind of choked up, and it goes, oh my God, it tastes like memories. It tastes like childhood. It tastes like, rehearsal. Wow. It's like the dinner tastes like memories to me. He flipped out. Yeah. It's like that. They have these real, like, the only other thing I can think of like that is music.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
So you guys were traveling and touring in San Francisco, and this is kind of going back when Toll and I used to live in Mill Valley, and the kids were babies, by the way, right? And you were touring around, and so you were staying with your folks in Berkeley, and then you called me up and said, hey, I'm in town, let's have dinner. I'm like, come on over to the house, and then you popped on over the hill, and we had dinner, and then you and I stayed up till like maybe 3 o'clock in the morning. This is when we were like chugged all this Zinfandel, and this and you had this like, because the Apple store in San Francisco had just opened, and it was a big deal, and the Counting Crows were playing in the Apple store like the very next day, and I think you were a little late for rehearsal.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And then I popped in, just before you were about to go live. And I don't even think you knew I was sort of standing in the audience, because it was standing room only. There was like 400 or 500 people in this Apple store watching you guys play. And it was so funny how you called me out, because I'm feeling a little slow today. I kind of got drunk with Tyler Florence last night, and here it is. and this is it. This is what we're cranking out today.
Yeah, it wasn't rehearsal. I was late for sound check.
Yeah.
For that gig, in the afternoon at the place. And I was a little rough that day. The voice wasn't all it should be.
Yeah.
But it was a good gig. It did come out. We did a tour that year of, I guess I had met one of the heads of Apple, Ron Johnson, who was like the president of he was the VP in charge of all the Apple stores, and he gave me my first iPhone when they first came out. But he kind of, between him and my management, we put together a tour of Apple stores as promo for the release of Saturday nights and Sunday mornings. We played the Apple store in San Francisco right when it opened, the one downtown New York. We did one in Chicago. We played at the campus on a little. We did. I forgot about that. We did a bunch of shows at Apple. It was fun.
And what's the music world like right now, right? With obviously, it's sort of shifting to what feels like almost 100% streaming as far as like music consumption. So what does it feel like when you create a new project and you want to think about publicity and touring and that kind of stuff? Like how do you put a new business plan together for that?
I'm not sure exactly. The business has changed so much in recent years. It became clear to me a few years ago that it was probably smarter to do like shorter bite-sized things rather than full albums, but smart or not, it doesn't really play to our strengths. I mean, we create these worlds that you can go live in. We make these records that work that way. So, it's never made a lot of sense to me to, without a good reason, just put out singles. We don't really do singles very well. We've had them. They've been more accidents than anything else. Mm-hmm. So I'm not really sure. When we first started in the record business, CDs were the thing, although people still put out vinyl, and slowly but surely vinyl kind of died out and they weren't putting out anymore. Now it's like you don't even put out CDs at all. It's all streaming, but vinyl's become kind of a weird collector's item. So now people you only put out vinyl because There's no point in putting out a CD. It's really only for collectors, and the rest is Spotify, where we're not exactly making a fortune off that.
Right.
I'm not sure. It's a weird thing right now because there aren't really. Oops, that's damn. But I'm going to put that on. Can't answer it. So I don't know. I mean, it's just all streaming, which was really hard for the last couple of years because the only way you could really make money is touring. And that's the one thing you haven't been able to do for a while now. Yeah. And we, in a brilliant moment of good planning, took 2019 off. After been touring a while, we decided I really want to take a year off. Let's take this year off. Took it off, and then we were planning on touring 2020, and of course, that didn't happen.
Are you guys hearing anything about when that might come back?
Well, bands are going out on tour. I gather that all the bands that were scheduled to tour in 2019 that summer, they didn't really refund any of the money. From what I heard, Live Nation said to everybody, you can get your money back if you write in the next 30 days or a week or something. Otherwise, your tickets are good in 2021. And so we just held over all those tours till this summer. So they're going out. And I guess people are putting on tickets for the fall. We've been talking about a tour in the fall. I'm not sure how I feel about it, whether it's safe to, not for us. I mean, we'll be fine, but I'm concerned about the audience right now and whether it's really safe to encourage people to do that. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I talked to a few people, one guy who's the director of public health at Harvard, another who does that sort of stuff at BU. And I've got a conference call tomorrow with this woman, Elizabeth Bradley, who's the president of Vassar now, but I guess she also was public health at Harvard before that. I want to talk to some people who are unbiased or biased just in the aspect of public health.
Sure.
And I want to just know whether it really is a good idea. And I've talked to two people so far. They were both really smart. They were both really informed. They both told me diametrically opposite things. Not really opposite. They were both concerned. One thought it was reasonable to start touring in the summer, late summer, fall. The other said he didn't think it was really time yet, but almost.
I think it's getting close. Yeah, I think you gotta be on the board in the water when the wave comes, right? And because we're starting to get a lot of interest because most of our kind of secondary or third tier business model was just corporate events, right? Like we would travel and do 35 events a year, and we were on airplanes every 3 or 4 days traveling to a different city, and all over the world. We would just travel and cook for big corporate events, and then so that kind of dried up pretty quickly, and then we pivoted to live cooking classes out of the studio here last March. We've done over 100, and so that was kind of an interesting pivot. And so now we're starting to kind of get this general interest into what are you doing in August and September and in October through the fall. So I think there's definitely going to be a lot of when it feels like, because we're all vaccinated. And so, and I feel like the math is starting to kind of work out that way, right? I'm starting to meet more people who are vaccinated versus people who aren't. I just did an event with the World Food Program, the United Nations in Oakland last week, as a matter of fact, and everybody in the room was vaccinated. You had to be vaccinated to get in. So, and the Golden State Warriors, because we're doing a new restaurant with them. So we're looking at a launch date in September, October. You'll have to be vaccinated to get into the arena. So everybody's trying to figure out what that sort of vaccination passport thing kind of looks like, so you can kind of feel like you can get into something, because as people feel like, okay, I'm safe and I'm not going to give it. I don't have it. I can't get it. I'm not going to give it to anybody, right? The more those people start to get together, they're going to want to do stuff like go see the Counting Crows. They're going to want to go do stuff like go eat a delicious, juicy steak with
deviled eggs.
With deviled eggs and and have a good bottle of Zinfandel. They're ready for that.
And at a certain point, we're going to just say, look, everyone who wants to be vaccinated has been vaccinated, and if you're choosing not to, the rest of us have to get on with our lives.
Yeah, and I think it's okay. Like we don't need to. And obviously you're right with the stationary opportunity, like at the restaurant. If as long as the numbers are in the right direction and the the caseloads are coming down, staying really really low, the threat of these things becoming super spreader events are pretty thin, and so even the state of California, we have the lowest infection rate in the nation right now, which I don't know if it's the dip or if it's the new standard or whatever it is, but it feels like we're starting to kind of make plans to kind of get the economy back together, and that's kind of what we're thinking about. Like how do we get the the restaurants back open, and not only for me but just for our employees. We had 147 employees at the end of 2019, and then we dipped down to about 15, and we survived all of 2020 on about 15 employees, and that's just basically doing like takeout and to-go service, and we got a food truck, and we were just trying to hustle. But now it's starting to ramp back up again. We are we're excited about we're hiring people back left, right, and center. We can't find enough people, right? Which is super which feels like God, I don't know where everybody went. Did they go to Austin? Did they go to Los Angeles? Like it seems like
there's like a nationwide shortage. I mean, I think people just had to find other things to do last year to survive, and so it's not like,
and maybe they're just
people haven't
happy
necessarily been like waiting, jumping to get back in.
Yeah. But it feels like we're similar in kind of the entertainment space, right? Like we want people to come out and have a good time and enjoy what we do. So we're just kind of waiting on the world to change a little bit, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the other restaurants. I have a lot of friends who chefs, so that's a really tough situation. When I don't know. I know that I'm one of the partners in David Burke's Tavern too, because David and I have been friends for a long time as well. And we're reopening, I guess it's a week from yesterday, I think, the 27th.
I love David Burke. How's he doing, by the way? He's good?
I've just been sort of chatting with him a little bit now, and he seems good. I think he's excited to get started with everything again. He's been, be nice to get that open. I want to go up there, and I haven't been out to a restaurant in so long. You talk about restaurants around the country I want to get back to. I would just like to get to any restaurant at this point. But it's still, I feel weird about going. I do. I'm trying. I want to go see David next week. I think that would be really
You kind of just have to break the seal. And then you're like, all right, I did it.
I did it.
I can do it.
Yeah. Like I've been on like 4 airplane trips to get up to Alaska to shoot with Food Network, and that was kind of weird, but did it, and feel like I'd be happy to get on a plane. As a matter of fact, we're going to Miami for the South Beach Food Wine Festival coming up in May, and I feel good about that. I'm ready to go.
I mean, I'm going to go. I have to go next month to Austin. I'm going to go be on Joe Rogan's show.
Oh, fun! Oh my, wow, yeah, that'd be great.
But I barely left the house in a year.
Yeah,
but on a plane, I haven't done that yet. Zoe did it a couple weeks ago to go to LA to film this video we've been doing for the band. But I haven't been anywhere in like. It's weird to think about it.
You've been home cooking.
You've been home cooking.
I have been home cooking. That's all.
Yeah,
I've done.
that's right. So Tolan had two questions, right? Because she was like, okay, you got to ask Adam these two questions because she's a big fan of your Instagram cooking series, and she said, why do you take the stems off of spinach? And I'm like, well, what was it? Really big spinach? Because he always does that. He destems spinach.
Oh, it was because I was making a soup.
Right.
And spinach. If you're just eating it, you don't need to. Obviously, the stem is great, but when you're in a soup, you have to devein it because it adds a little bitterness when you cook it for a while. So I think at least that's what I was taught that you need to sort of devein it for a soup. Sometimes it's not like I'm not like religious about getting all of it out, but it what I read, that recipe was something my parents and me invented. So it's 30, 40 years ago when they came up with it. We used to have sorrel in our backyard. So we'd make zucchini and leek and sorrel soup.
That sounds nice.
And I sort of changed it to spinach because the sorrel's good, but
it's hard to get.
Hard to find, yeah.
And also it's not as pretty.
Yeah,
it definitely green. It looks better.
Exactly. And then the other question was like, what's with the glove?
Oh, it's a cutting glove because one of the things I've discovered is that I have an incredible facility for just slicing my thumb. On my offhand, I cut it all the time.
Oh my God.
And so if I just remember to put that glove on, it doesn't happen.
Oh, it's fun.
It's just that.
That's really funny.
It's got this little Michael Jackson vibe with the one glove.
A little bit.
Adam, what do you think was probably the best thing you've learned to cook or kind of conquered during your new dive into culinary?
Well, I would think the best thing was this, it's a pork chili verde. It's really good. But the things I'm most proudest of, the things I'm the most proud of, there are two things. One is I did a crawfish boil, and being someone for whom like New Orleans used to be my home away from home. Yeah. And I really love it there, and I love boiled crawfish. And outside of New Orleans, and even some places in New Orleans, it's not everything I want it to be. And a lot of my friends who do crawfish boils don't do it as well. And I did a crawfish boil and crushed it. It was really, really good. And the other thing was I made a tonkatsu ramen.
Ooh, that sounds good, man.
Ramen is something to conquer. I mean, that's a big one.
Yeah, 24 hours to do that creamy tonkatsu broth. In a rolling boil as opposed to a simmer. And you keep adding the water. It really breaks the collagen down. It gets that kind of creamy, milky brown color.
Yeah.
I did it with the 3 parts. I made the chashu pork for it. I made the little sauce that goes in it. It was very complicated, and like it was a major undertaking, and I pulled that off, and I was very happy with that.
And this is what I love about this past year. I just feel like we've learned so much about so many people, and I've known this for a long time, but I'm so happy you're sharing it with such a big audience, and that's just your love of food. You can roll in the kitchen. Like, you know what you're talking about, and you know how to do it. And I just think it's fun to watch you. You're great.
Well, I mean, a lot of it is just like when we were doing the Underwater Sunshine podcast, I'd be researching, and I have pages and pages of notes on all this music I wanted to talk about. Right. And then we're going to get back to that starting in about a week too. But all that research time that I used to love doing, I just sort of transferred over to this. So I read and read and read about Thai food and read about so that I could put together my recipes, do
you have any favorite go-to sources, like sources that you always go back to when you're researching?
It's all over the place. I do think that Cooks Illustrated and that America's that website they have is really good. They do a lot of thinking about like interesting. That's where I got kind of the basis of that pork chili verde.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. They got a really interesting idea about instead of browning the meat in the pan, you cut the trimmings off at first and just cook the trimmings in some of the fat trimmings in a little bit of water. So it cooks down into the pan and let the water boil away, and you get a fond on the pan.
Mm-hmm.
So you're able to like cook the stuff in the pan without actually doing the browning first, because the fond gets that all that flavor in there just from cooking the trimmings. They do like, there's some interesting thinking in there.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh my God. So here's the deal. Like when you're back out in the Bay Area, I got to have dinner with you, man. And I just want to be able to cook. All right. Can we cook together sometime?
Anytime.
Yeah. And
we should do a test kitchen.
And let's do an episode of Wolf It Down here in the studio, man. We'll kind of come in and you pick the recipes. We'll cook it together, and I'll be your sous chef, and let's make some chili verde. It'd be great.
No, I mean, you picked the rest. I could learn more. It's like, for me, it's like I'm winging this and reading about it and figuring it out, but I really don't know a lot about cooking. I'm just trying to like force the knowledge into my head by literally like reading and reading and reading recipes. But I could learn some technique. That would be great.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, I miss you to death. It's been too long. How's the wine business coming along?
That's one thing that we were worried about that before the pandemic, but we sold so much wine over the last
Shocker.
People are drinking. You're right. Shocker.
And we got a bunch of great reviews for the first stuff. We got all pretty much above 90s on everything this year, everything we make at the vineyard. That was kind of great.
And tell everybody the name of the wine and where they can possibly get it and that kind of stuff too.
Elise Winery is our winery, ELYSE, and it's elisewinery.com. And we also have our institution brand and our ADEX brand, which is our higher end stuff. Our winemaker is this guy named Russell Bevan, who also has Bevan Cellars, and he's brilliant. So we have a custom crush facility. So we're doing wine for other people as well.
Oh, it's great.
Kind of a family of wines we're doing there, right in Yountville. So.
I love it. Well, so listen, I miss you to death. Thank you so much for hopping on the podcast. We're going to get to New York sometime soon. I've been to New York in a year and a half, and I'm usually in New York 10 times a year at least, right?
I think we're supposed to go in October for New York City food.
Food and wine. So we'll see you probably at the end of this year. If I don't see you first out here on the West Coast,
I would love it. And we're going to get out there as soon as we can.
All right.
I've missed like crazy.
Well, come on out. Let's eat. Let's cook. Please tell Zoe we said hi. Tolan sends her love.
Thank you, guys.
All right, man. Everybody, Adam Duritz, give him a round of applause. One of the greatest musicians of our generation. Thank you so much for hopping the podcast. You're such Adam. A dear friend, and we miss you to death, and we'll see you soon, man.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
All right, buddy. Thanks, buddy. Take care. Thanks.
Bye-bye. Have a good one.
Bye.
Isn't he a great guy?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Like he and I, we've had so many fun late nights together, and he's just such a good dude, and he just loves everything that, he loves like that sensory experience, man. He just loves like everything from the source. He just loves talking to like people who are artisans and know how to make it.
Well,
if it's like music or art or food,
you can tell he loves to just research and
dive
read
in.
and learn. Deep dive into everything.
Yeah.
He's also like, I don't think he heard me. I gave him a Go Bears. He's like one of the largest supporters of all Cal Bears like sports programs. He's a huge fan. But I was stoked to hear him mention Zachary's. I also love Zachary's.
I haven't been to Zachary's in many years.
Good. I know,
right?
right?
Oh my God, it's a good reminder. I need to go back there.
Yeah, speaking of that, we're going to go to we're going to Wayfair this week. I'm taking the kids. The kids haven't been to Wayfair. I mean, obviously I pop in all the time, but the kids haven't been there in a year. So I'm taking the family in for dinner this weekend.
Going into the city.
Going into big trip to the city. Come on, everybody, let's go.
Put your coats on.
We're still there. We're still there.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. But Miller and Lux is coming along. The restaurant looks fantastic. Construction is finished. We're just going to be in sort of a slight hibernation. Our business plan is to open up when the 2021-2022 basketball season kicks off a little later this year. It doesn't look like our Golden State Warriors are going to be in the playoffs, so we're going to have like a little quiet summer. And I think we're going to start hiring and ramping up somewhere between August and September with the idea that we're going to launch sometime in October.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's all coming together, man. Thank God. We're just sticking with it, man. Yeah. All right. So what else is going on in the food world? We've got something to taste this week, right?
We do. Well, so there's a boba shortage, if you haven't heard.
Oh no.
Yes.
Oh no. Every 12-year-old girl in the world is panicking right now.
Yeah, but this is kind of what happens. This is when you're like, God, we live at such a weird time that like somebody's like, oh, there's a, supplier that's having like a little issue getting their boba. There was like a drought in Taiwan. And so like there's some issues there. And then obviously like the ports here in LA and San Francisco,
all the ports are
they're backed up. They're backed up because
the plants that make the boba are in like Taiwan, but the rice powder or the rice starch that they make it with to make the tapioca starch. That's what it is.
Tapioca starch.
Tapioca
Yeah.
That comes from Thailand. So it's like all these different chains of supply that are like getting backed up. And then you have COVID stuff and borders.
everybody's ordering everything. So
Sure.
there's all this stuff coming in.
Yeah.
But so it's like, there's a delay. I'm not saying that it's not a thing. It is a thing. But it's like you say boba shortage and everybody goes ape shit.
I never thought it would like turn into such a big thing like boba shortage.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
And so it's like everybody's like buying up all the boba and freaking out about the boba and go get your boba. And so
There's riots in the streets over boba.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens. But what I just thought was so funny was there was a article about this guy who was like, hey, listen, take this opportunity if you can't get your boba to like try some of the other toppings at these boba places, because everybody goes and they get their chewy boba balls, but they have all these different toppings that you can do.
That's a nice roll. I like that.
Chewy boba balls.
Chewy boba balls. So that 5 times fast.
But so
Chewy
he was
bubba
like,
bubba balls.
my favorite this was him saying that his favorite topping is this cheese foam.
Yeah.
Salted, which sounds vile, obviously.
But it's cream cheese.
But it's basically cream cheese and
Yeah.
sugar, like whipped into this almost like marshmallowy consistency.
It's like cheesecake.
Yeah, and he says that it balances the boba perfectly. So I was like, well, let's try cheese foam. And it was hard. I want to say it was hard not to order boba. Like I wanted to get the boba balls in there too, but I was like, no, I'm not going to do
All right,
it.
so let me ask you.
Save them for
Save
Let
them
me
for
ask
the
you-
really needy people that
I don't need the boba.
need
right.
the boba.
The next thing will be ordering bluefin tuna. All right, so let me ask you a naive question, right? Because like I've had it a million times. I don't know if I've ever like studied boba tea. My daughter Dorothy is a boba tea aficionado. As a matter of fact, I take her out to brunch every Saturday in the city, and so we're on the hunt for like the best pastries and best croissants and that kind of stuff. But she always wants to stop by like these boba tea houses and grab one on the way home. And she likes a nice matcha blend. And this one tastes really great. But what makes a boba tea a boba tea? I'm assuming it's the tapioca pearls.
The boba balls.
The boba balls make it. So if not, it's not without that. Is it
Boba balls.
Those the boba
The boba balls.
boba balls. So without the boba
No,
balls,
I mean there's a million different actual drinks that you can put.
It's just
the
tea.
boba
Right.
into.
It's a nice tea.
It's tea,
It's a
or
nice
it's
tea.
not. I mean, there's just
Right.
like that you can get it.
You can get it flavored,
get a
and there's like
a
fruit flavors, like
fruity milk.
Yeah.
You can. I mean,
Yeah.
like my kids are not having caffeinated tea, but they'll go and they'll get like strawberry garbage and
garbage.
garbage. Bright
There's, like,
red,
sugar.
neon red.
I don't
Unicorn
know.
vomit.
I don't know
Right.
what's in there. I don't know what's in there, but
Okay, so this
wait.
is what they
Can
call
I go grab the other one next?
cheese
still
foam.
need
This is
two
called
shots.
cheese foam.
Cheese foam.
Cheese foam, and
The
it
white
and
stuff on top.
right. I don't know, man. I just feel like this is too sweet for me.
Very sweet.
Okay, but so
Oh my god,
I know that it's sweet.
it's really
but-
sweet.
Okay, wait, hold on. The whole
But the
point of the
cheese
cheese
foam
foam
is
is to
kinda
balance
salty,
it.
yeah. Yeah.
It's salty.
Okay, so you
Like,
gotta get both at the
drink
same
it
time.
with the cheese foam.
Okay, so
Show the action cam your cheese foam there.
the action cam right here.
Yep.
Cheese foam.
Okay.
Okay, so all right, so check it out. So this is the I guess it's some sort of black tea, right? I mean, I can't even.
It's black tea.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good with the cheese foam.
Okay.
I mean,
And it has kind of an Earl Grey flavor to it. The cheese,
Man,
the tea itself. I can't drink this. I just can't. I don't like the. I don't really like the boba teas anyway. They're just like so
The
sweet.
cheese foam on its own.
I have a
disgusting.
real sensitivity to sugar. I just can't drink like or eat like super sweet stuff. It's just not my thing. I'm like,
not.
wow. It's not my thing.
Take a big
I did.
sip of the cheese foam.
I know. It's like liquid cheesecake. Is this on your diet,
It's
Matt?
not even.
No.
It's not even liquid cheesecake. It's like very dairy.
It's very dairy. It's very like salty, like fresh milk.
Wow. Oh my god. Well,
I want boba.
Hey,
bring back the boba balls.
if we're tasting something this
balls.
week, we did it. So please bring back the chewy boba balls because I can get that. If you can get like an unsweetened like matcha tea with some of those chewy boba balls, I can kind of get down with it. I like it. I like a fat straw.
Yeah, they kind of have that like
Yeah.
sort of like brown sugary molassesy flavor.
It's nice.
I don't mind the boba balls.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of this.
Cheese foam is a hard no.
Hard no. Hard no on the cheese film. There's another really good story out this week, and this one's really special because our patron saint of chefs, Tony Bourdain, we lost him in 2018, and it looks like we're getting one more great book out of the mind of just one of the greatest food storytellers of our generation, which I'm very, very excited. I haven't gotten a copy of it yet, but it's called World Travel, an Irreverent Guide, and it was co-written, or I would say how would you describe it?
It was kind of put together.
It was organized by his long-term assistant, right?
Long-time assistant, Lori Wooliver.
Yeah.
And I think, they had a plan to do this.
We should get her on the podcast.
Yeah, they had a plan to do this, and he was going to write 12 essays, and they were going to take his notes from his travels and everything. And I think she really compiled everything and then asked other people in his life to write the essays. So it's kind of contributors. His brother writes a few, other chefs write a few, and then also, a lot of hard work from her getting this all together and assembling it. But kind of written in his voice and his style, it sounds like, so that we're feeling like we have a little bit of him back
too, right? Because there's lots of tidbits in the book about like when you're in the city, where to eat, where to stay, what what district and things like that offer what.
Yeah,
exactly. It's kind of from his mind and her words.
Yeah, and there's a really great breakdown of the whole thing on Eater this week. So if you want to go to eater.com, there's looks like a story. Is it still on the front page, or it was an article written on April 19th. So if you guys want to go check that out,
got Q&A with Lori.
Q&A with Lori, which is really good. I ordered the book on Amazon, but I haven't gotten it yet, so I haven't read it. But I'm dying to dive into this. I mean, Kitchen Confidential was such a masterwork.
It's like the Bible.
It really was, and I just remember when that book came out, everyone would ask me like, wow, is that what kitchen life is absolutely like? I'm like, yeah. And in a lot of ways, I mean, minus the drug addiction, of course, I mean, it was my life completely growing up. I mean, parallel, like restaurants were always just sort of the outlier of society.
Yeah.
Where,
pirate ship,
right? Dirty pirates with like great palates and razor sharp knives, but like weird social habits would kind of get together and appreciate each other and start a culture. And that's just like the food world. And so it'll be good to kind of get one more, good book out of Tony and his such a brilliant like prose, the way he would just describe things, right? And at some point in time, he decided to step out of the kitchen and just sort of take on this sort of storyteller role in more of a dynamic way. And I felt that was the right thing for him to do at the right time, right? I mean, I think he was a great chef, but he was a much better sort of representative of the food world in general. And he sort of rose past being a chef into, the Valhalla of great American writers, right? And so there's some point in time, he just kind of graduated from like being in the profession to being just one of the greatest writers in American history. So it'll be good to dive into that. I can't wait to get it in the mail as soon as it comes in. I'll probably read that this weekend. It should come today. Yep. So yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well, did you guys have a good podcast this week? Did you have fun? Yeah. Well, so listen, guys, we're super excited about next week because next week is going to be our first sort of podcast shift where we're changing the dynamics of what we're doing a little bit, but it's still going to be this great place that you and I can get together once a week and have our kitchen session and discover all kind of fun new recipes where we get a chance to cook together, chat, hang out, talk, and be a part of it. And we're going to be launching this live on Facebook next Wednesday on the 28th, and it's going to be at 3:30 Pacific time, 6:30 Eastern. So that's where we're going to do our first recording of this podcast session. And then we're going to have what they call a second window sort of the next day on Instagram TV. And so if you've been watching this on that, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And also we'll be posting it on, reposting on Facebook and also on YouTube. And then are we still doing the audio version on iTunes and Spotify? We're thinking about that too?
I think we're not.
I think we might. Let's just give it a shot. Well, we're going to see how it translates, right? But everybody wants to watch us kind of cook and do more fun stuff like that. So I think we're going to give it a shot. Let's just do 10 or 12 like that and see how it goes. And because obviously we put so much work into this anyway. You can tell.
So prepared.
We're so prepared with this. Anyway, so guys, thank you so much for hanging out with this week. As always, we absolutely appreciate it. Thank you so much, Don Miggs with Whole Damn Mess for our original soundtrack. Thank you, Amanda Gold, for producing this fun stuff. Thank you, Matt, as always. And thank you, Nick Congello, for running the boards and ones and twos, brother. Love you, man. Listen, guys, thanks so much. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you next time on Wolf of Them.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.